My phone is on silent. Pastor Julian, you ready?
I'm ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another session of The Playhouse. Let me say this. I am super excited about this conversation that is about to be had. On this platform, I've had over 50 different conversations with, I call them CSIs, culture shaping icons. These are influentials within media and entertainment and beyond, different sectors. Authentic conversations. But let me honestly say that this conversation that we're about to have right now is probably one that I've been super expectant about. Excited to have it. Trying to get it, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on.
Absolutely.
Now, there's usually a way that I introduce people by just touching a little bit about what they have accomplished. If I try and do that with you, we're going to be here for 1 hour. The intro will last so long. But one thing that I really want to do is remove the limits that people may have seen you on the screen. So there are people who see you right now and are automatically thinking, this is a pastor, I already know his story. It's okay, I'll skip this one. Do not. That is a box that you have placed this amazing man in. I can talk about the different boards that you sit in, but it will take forever. I can talk about the fact that you have been a musician.
Yeah.
I can talk about the fact that you have financed local productions in this country.
Right.
I can talk about the fact that you are enabling thousands of Kenyans to own their own homes. I can talk about the fact that you have accomplished something that very few people in Africa and the world has, which is from the business sector. You have been able to accomplish something that puts you in the same category as the Strive Masiwas or the Dangotes. I can talk about that. Or I can talk about from the spiritual side, how as a leader, you are impacting various people and trying to get them to not just receive Christ, but become kingdom shippers, kingdom vessels, and accomplish great feats into this world. And we're going to talk about all of this. Yeah. So whatever limits that you may have put this man that you're seeing in front of your screens, whatever box that you may have put him in, my first advice to you is, on the Playhouse, I like to say, you don't really know people until you take time to get to know people. You are privileged to have this access, and I am super privileged that he has given me the access to have these conversations. There are people who are right now watching this are wondering, how on earth have you managed to have this access with this man? So that is the intro that I have to do with you, because this is going to be, honestly speaking, a life transformative conversation. Right. But you've got to help me do the intro. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for none other than Reverend Julian Kyula. I don't know sound effects, budget me
Okay,
thanks.
well done.
Can I call you Rev?
Julian.
Julian, eh?
Please.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm already, okay, I can call you Julian.
Please call me Julian.
Okay, sir, because you've allowed me to.
Yes.
I'm blessed to know you in the fact that, and I've known you for quite some time.
A long time.
People don't even know you were on my first album.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. We did a collabo. On the Playhouse, I just get to hear the journey that somebody has taken.
Yeah.
For you, I did your intro a bit differently just because of the massive and the scale of things that you've done.
Right.
But I always like starting this from the very beginning. With you, I'd ask you, let's talk a little bit. Who is Julian? And let's talk about it from childhood beginnings. Right. We start this thing way back and we go slowly.
Okay. Thank you so much, Richard. It's a joy to be here. I'm very humbled that you would think that we have something worth putting out there. I'm excited about the future, but you're absolutely right. You sometimes also have to understand somebody's past and childhood. And I didn't have a dramatic childhood. It was just normal, right? I will say that I grew up in very many different cities.
Can I ask when you were born?
1975. I just turned 45 this year.
What?
Yes,
okay.
I just turned 45 this year. For some reason, I've been telling people I'm 46. I don't know why I was rushing to, until my son reminded me a few weeks ago, Dad, you're 45. You know that? I said, that's true. I've grown up in a amazing parents. Gave me everything in terms of that a child could ask for in terms of love, time. I don't have much drama there in terms of growing up. I did have a very moved around a lot. So I mean, I could tell you about the 9 primary schools I went to.
9?
Yes. I went to 9 different primary schools because my father moved a lot with the bank, and I refused to go to boarding apparently. So I was in schools: Eldoret, Machakos, Thika, Embu, Nakuru, Nyahururu, Moranga. Did all that, you know.
What bank was this?
He worked for Barclays, and so they moved their managers a lot, especially when they were still growing. So the way the bank worked is you'd start in all these regions and eventually end up in Nairobi. And so we were born when he was doing his rounds. So my sisters, they opted. So I have 4 sisters.
And what number are you in the family?
I'm the second. Okay. Second in my family. I have 4 amazing sisters,
only boy.
I'm the only boy. So all my sisters, for some reason, accepted to go to boarding, and I refused. So I became a nomad. So I mean, I remember going to school in Nyahururu for my, debut into primary school, and in this place, I remember them teaching us English in Kikuyu, because my folks were trying to find a school. So in the meantime, they're like, this boy can't stay home. So there's a school around the corner there, let him go. It was a district education board school, DEB as they call them. I don't think your generation knows DEB.
No.
And they were teaching us things like, what's a noun? And, can you imagine being taught what a noun is in Kikuyu? You say, yeah, teacher would hold a cup and say, this
is a cup.
This is a cup. Noun. So this is a noun. What I'm holding is a noun. Oh my God. Drinking is, it was interesting. Anyway, so did a lot of schools and eventually settled in high school. I settled.
And when decided to go to boarding?
I chose to go to boarding. I was tired of that movement. I was happy to go to boarding and grew through that.
Where did you go to high school?
So I went to Alliance for high school.
That means you must have been pretty clever.
I was okay. I wasn't the smartest kid on the block. I was okay.
No. To enter Alliance, you needed to be the smartest kid.
It depended. You see, there was a quota system in the country. so it depended on where you came from. And as I told you, I was moving around a lot. So it was okay. Alliance was okay. I actually, to be transparent about it, I did not start off at Alliance. I started off in about 3 different high schools, and then my parents said, this boy of ours is going to be lost. And eventually, after a bit of misbehaving in Form 1, they found me a place in Alliance, and I settled there. So I will not go into details of what I did.
Okay, let me ask you, at this time, do you have an understanding of, do you know what it is that you want to be in life? Are you like, okay, I want to be a pilot, I want to be a businessman, I want to be a pastor?
Yeah.
Okay.
At about Form 2, when I was in primary, I really wanted to be a pilot. But it was sensational. It wasn't something, it's just a drive, partly because I had a few relatives who had flown me in the cockpit, and I really enjoyed that experience. And there was this big talk about what it is to be a captain of a big Kenya Airways flight. So I had a cousin who had been very successful in that, and he would always take me out on the planes, and I just loved it. The problem was, when I finally finished high school and left for the US, I actually went to start working on my becoming a pilot, and I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. The problem is I had never gotten into small planes. And I didn't know just how my body would react. I mean, I literally did my first 20 hours on my PPL, and every time we went in the air, I got sick.
Yo.
And it was not just airsick, like literally sick, panic, anxiety, name it. And they just, at some point, they just told me, we don't think this is for you. It was the most disappointing time of my life because I would do everything necessary to stay in there. But nobody wanted to take me in their plane because they'd have to keep washing it when we come down.
Okay.
I mean, I got so sick, literally. The small planes messed me up till today.
This is huge, what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you tell me you by Form 2 you decide, okay, this pilot thing is the direction that I want to go. So you actually finish Alliance and then you apply to go and study to be a pilot.
Yes.
In the States.
For the licenses, you could even do them here. But I wanted to combine being a pilot with being an aviator. So I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer that has a pilot's capability.
Wow.
So that's what I went to do until I got in a plane.
And then now,
because, I thought, somewhere in my childhood, I thought I'll be trained straight on the big plane. But shock on me. I mean, eventually I knew it. And I did the test here at Wilson. I passed all of them quite well. The guys were like, he's going to do okay. But when I got into the US and got in a plane, 20 hours, which means every time, we did it 20 times. And every time I'd psych myself up and say, today I will be okay. I think only one time did I come down without throwing up and without getting sick and almost fainting. I would get such bad panics that I would be sweating intensely throughout the entire thing. My hands shaking, my legs shaking, until I just realized, you know what? I need to have an honest conversation with my father and mother, because part of what was keeping me there was to say, they've already made so much sacrifice for me to be here. Changing course right now is just, a bad thing. And took me a while, took me a whole year to finally tell them I can't do this. I just can't. I'm unable to. Even now, if you put me on that small plane to Amboseli,
Nikobaya.
My wife knows. So usually I have to take some drugs to knock me out or something. I cannot do those small one engine, two engine type things. It just doesn't work for me.
The Matatu of the sky.
Hey, yeah, I get very sick. So even, my friends, one time we had a big event in Eldoret and we missed our flight. So I called one of my very close friends who's also a son in the church. And I said to him, I need, are your planes on the ground in Wilson? He said, yeah, where do you need to go? I said, I need to go to Eldoret quickly because I'm participating in a large event and somehow we've just missed our flight. So I need to get on that plane immediately. So he says, I have a student who's flying in that direction. I could ask them to land you at the airport. I said, absolutely, get me on that plane. If you want to torture me, just put me on those small planes. So, long story short is that was the end of my aviation career thinking, which...
Hold up.
Yeah.
Rewind. You've taken this story already. I love the pace that you're moving at because of course I know there's a lot you've accomplished. In this high school period and this primary period, what's your spirituality like?
So I really wasn't a spiritual guy. To the contrary.
Yeah. So you're not saved.
I was not saved. I came to know Christ in Form 2. By that time I had done a lot of damage. I came to know Christ in Form 2. And actually, very interestingly, my best friend at that time, a guy called Maringa, comes to me and says to me, you need to get saved. So we go shoot basketball somewhere, and when we're leaving, we're just over there, just near public service in Nairobi. There's a place called public service. We used to shoot hoops. And he says to me, right here, I want you to give your life to Christ. I mean, I'm like, dude, we're in the middle of the street. I mean, cars are passing, people are watching us. What's this thing you're talking to me? He's like, it's a decision you'll never regret. I didn't know what I was doing. So I told him, listen, get on with it, make it short. I don't need to mess my reputation on the streets, because we're literally on the street. And that's how I got saved. Funny enough, so I go home I tell my mother, I did this thing today. She's like, what thing? I got saved. And she starts doing cartwheels. Literally, my mom is overjoyed because I was the first child in the family. I was the most notorious. Yet, then I come and give her this news. There was no, drawing to this thing. I had done a lot. So this was like, oh my God. Then my father is overjoyed. Then I'm like, okay, this looks like... So
they were in the faith?
They were in the faith, but they never tried to push us in a direction. They just had this faith that let our children discover God for themselves. We'll do all the right things. We'll take them to church. We'll do whatever. But now they themselves were in the faith. My dad, of course, being an AIC man, but they had settled at Nairobi Baptist as a church. So they get so excited. I'm like, okay, well, this excitement is interesting. I mean, I used to be told no, before I even ask no. Then you get saved and then all of a sudden, okay, you can go. You're like, hey, this thing has benefits. I don't know what it is, but it has benefits. All of a sudden, I can be picked by my friends. We can go. Let us know what time you're coming back. I said, this thing is different, whatever this thing is. So I started doing some research. My friends started walking me. I went to school. I joined CU. And I just, quite frankly, I just became a serious... I just fell in love with Christ ever since. Now, when I was a child, let me just go back. When I was a child, I did have an encounter. One of the schools I went to called St. Martin's. This is a school, this is the only boarding primary I did, which was a disaster because I literally ran away from home to stop going to the school. But when I was there, I was standard 5. And this school only had children from standard 4 to 8. So they didn't have standard 1 to 4 to 3. So from standard 4 to 8, only 120 students, and Catholic school, and scared the living daylights out of me. And let me explain. It just had a very rough and tough routine. It was almost like a military school, but done by the Catholic Church. And I just one time had an amazing encounter with God there, because I was literally every day scared, because there was a lot of, first of all, they beat children without even any clothes on. So if you're being beaten, you have to take off your clothes.
Whoa.
You'd be beaten for not passing your exams. You'd be beaten for anything. Like the guy could just come and you smiled and he's not happy that you smiled and he beats you. Like you were literally on the edge all the time. And it was quite an experience. So in standard 5, I had this encounter where I would pray a lot, but I was praying to stay out of trouble. So I got very close to God. I had memorized the entire Psalms. I had the Gideon's Bible in my pocket constantly, because I believed, God, you must protect me from these brothers, these Catholic brothers and fathers who just beat us anywhere. And I was so devastated in my mind. And I mean, it took me a while, even after that, to really reconcile with my fellow Catholic brothers and sisters, because I couldn't understand why you do that to children, And I talked to my parents, and this school had 120 students, so they had kind of, figured the system. Don't have too many children, make sure everybody just passes, and then the school's average is very good in terms of how it will do in the nation. Yep. So St. Martin's was always number 2, number 3 in terms of ranking, but they had mastered. I figured it as a kid. These guys have just mastered the system. Yep. Have fewer kids. By the time you reach standard 8, they've worked on you until you have to be a person who passes. Otherwise, they'd make you repeat classes until you're good enough for the next class. And I say that without fear of contradiction. Anyone can come and challenge me. That's what used to happen. But they whipped us. If I show you my back, I still have whip marks.
What?
On my back, And I've met with a few people who went there, and we've had our own anonymous healing sessions. Yes. But it was bad for children. It was bad. In fact, I think part of the story is that at one time a child who was getting the canes, because they had this special, very long whip type of canes, this tree that would not break, but would whip you from a distance, you would be whipped. and I had an encounter with God. So I mean, I think after I left, a child died while getting those canes from the trees, because you have to go very high to get these canes.
Yeah.
So you are kind of like a senior student if you are the one who gets the canes. You are exempted from a lot of stuff. So very, very special people are the ones that made the canes. But they just wake up and say the whole school is being worked on because one class was making noise. All of you come out, strip, we're working on you. So you see all these 120 kids without clothes. I thought it was abuse.
It is abuse.
Anyway, I got over it. But that time I had an encounter. I would go and hide. I would pray for 5 hours straight. 5 hours. I would go and hide and pray for 3 hours. Like every night, I spent so much time with God because I was scared to death. So I literally rioted. I mean, I went home one holiday, and then you could only be seen once a term by your folks. That's the only time you could be visited. So that, for me, I think was a very traumatic event in my life. And so you asked a question about my encounter. So when I came and got saved, I knew this God, but I didn't know this element of salvation. So what it now did is, from where I had paused, I now continued the journey, but now I was searching in a different way. I said, I want to understand now. Now let's go deeper and understand what's salvation, what's redemption, and I didn't turn back.
The powerful thing about your story, that encounter drew you closer to God.
Yes.
A lot of people, because it is the church that is doing this to them, it can push them away from.
Yeah, it did push me away until Form 2. I didn't want to hear anything to do with, especially if you talk to me about the Catholic Church. I would punch you. I mean, I remember one event where I almost beat up a kid just because he told me he was coming from Mass. I was trying to shake the living daylights out of him to wake up, because in my head I was but it was this one place. It wasn't
I get
everywhere, but it was traumatic. So yes, it was an interesting continuation now to say, okay, let me now fully grasp what was really going on there. But I can tell you, God protected me, because somehow, I mean, I constantly, I was always in the top 3 in the class, top 3, top 4. I was always able to pick after myself. I was given responsibilities. So I was always spared. Like the guy would come and cane the whole church and just say, Kyura, Keti, and I'd just be spared. How people wondered, why are you a favorite, Kyura Kuja, so somehow, I tell you, it kept me out of trouble. I mean, I'd pray. People would tell me, pray for me, because your prayers work. Because they'd see me being exempted. The whole school is being caned and I'm left out. And you can't explain why. Where chukwango zako uende. Until I started wondering. So I said, this thing works.
It works.
When I spend time, I'm doing well in my exams. I'm getting by. So I felt like I was in this prisoner's camp, and the only way out was God.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So one time I came, my parents had now moved to Nairobi. I came, I told them, but I'm not going back to that school. They said, yeah, whatever. You're going. Get your box ready. The next day, they're looking for me. They can't find me. Gone. I ran away. We lived over there on Riara Road, but I ran away to Adams.
Few meters. That's funny.
As long as they couldn't find me, I had taken off.
So you never went back to that school?
I never went back.
Okay, man, but it's, anyway, that's why I love hearing about, you get to know people more, the more you hear their backstory. Yeah. Okay, so now, at this point, let's now fast forward the story of where you've got to, what state did you go to?
I went to Texas, Houston.
What year is this, the 90s?
1995.
1995.
I left for Texas in 1996. Yeah.
So now you go there and then you spend this 1 year doing flying, and you're just, I call it warrioring, throwing up all over the place. Man. You're sick. So you tell your parents, and what happens after that?
No, they're like, whatever you want to do. I said, I want to venture into business. I want to go towards a business course. I'd prefer to spend more time on business. They're like, okay. It's your life. Make the choice. We'll back you anyway. And that was it. That was all. They just said, just Do your very best. That time my sisters are busy doing, their masters and doctorates, and I'm busy telling them I'm starting over again. So it was a very, it was tough. It was tough. It was a tough transition, but we did it, moved, and I've never looked back since.
Okay, let's talk about that time. First of all, that's from a era perspective. Moi is still in power here.
Right.
You've traveled abroad.
Right.
Your friends probably even traveled abroad. Now you've done this flying thing that's not working.
Yeah.
Do you start working to pay fees? What was it as a young
man? I mean, as soon as I hit the US, you see, one of the things I liked about the US is it was an equalizer. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter whose child you are. It doesn't care. Again, we were from an okay family, but we were not, money was not thrown everywhere. We were well taken care of, but we had to work our way. I mean, so my first job was, when I was in school, I became a waiter. And I waited tables. I have a very serious respect for waiters. Anywhere I go, I look at them because I faced interesting times and characters, and it was fun. It was fun. Let me say, it was different. It was fun. I waited tables. I did valet. I was a valet driver. So in the morning I'm waiting tables. In the evening, I'm parking people's cars while they go to a club. I did those jobs, and it was tiring. I mean, I just didn't know how tiring valet was. We talk about valet here. One car comes every 30 minutes. No, this was 100 cars needing to be parked every minute. You run, you go park. You come back, someone is giving you $1 for going to get their car. You run, you come back, you do everything. Someone's yelling at you, Julian, go, move. What are you waiting for? You're tired. By the time you're done, you have classes in the morning. You're exhausted. At 2 p.m., you're waiting tables. At 8 p.m., you're a valet driver. Hey, boss.
And you were earning this money. Were you using it to pay fees, or your parents said, I'll pay fees, but then the rest?
It was a mix, Sometimes dad could. Sometimes it was a challenge. He did his very best. So I'd say, no, take care of my sisters, because a lot of us were out. So I'd say, you handle the sisters, you handle the girls. I got this. I'll do my thing. So I'd pay my fees. I'd do what I can do, and pay my rent. Then he'd also chip in and say, here you go. But he did his very best. As far as school was concerned, he handled it. But I tried to ease the burden by saying, I'll take care of this myself. Handle the girls. I'll take care of this. So at no time did he feel that, at no time did I feel it was not fair. I'm the one who kept saying, no, handle the girls. I got this. And I felt I needed to make my own way as the guy. Just survive, hustle, do whatever. So I remember, I did the waiting thing. I kept growing in business. I'd look at different things. I'd look at how they were running that restaurant. I tell you, one time I got this job to sell perfumes. Because now you see what happens as you're a waiter. You're trying to find, you're doing this waiter valet, you're tired. So you're trying to find, can I do another job that could earn how much I earn with these things? So I remember one time I got this opportunity. They told me how you can move these perfumes if you sell them there. So I became a salesman. And that was a humbling experience. But so I remember being at this supermarket. I hadn't seen the sign, no soliciting. So I'm here with my
in Texas,
a
black man
at a mall. Showing
in
people
a place
some
that
perfumes
says no soliciting
in a briefcase and I just saw the guards running towards me. Let's just say I packed that stuff and took off, because I was like, I'm gonna be taken, I'll be deported, I'll be, you just imagine all these things. So I just quit that job. I just said, this is not working. I had tried it for some time. It just wasn't me. So there were always these experiments in the US about sales. Your first 3-4 years are just drama. You laugh, because where you land, you take on the culture of what the people there are doing. That's what happens in the States. So if you landed in Boston, there are things people did. But your first 4 years, 3 years, In the 90s, guys were waiters. That was what people knew. Come and be a waiter. Nobody said come and be a manager. No. Come be a waiter. Come work at KFC. Come work at McDonald's. Earn your way. Those were the jobs available, and they were available also for American students. So it wasn't because we were Africans.
Yep, I get it.
Even the Americans, that's what they did. In their early 20s, first job. And what I liked about America, you could find a millionaire's kid. The father is like, that's where you're gonna go. You'll do McDonald's, so that you understand the value of life and the value of $1 and the value of work and discipline. So it was like, we didn't have NYS in our time,
Yes.
but that was our NYS in the States. You learned, and that's how I got through that.
Now, from a school perspective, how is that going? Are you interested in this business thing that you're learning?
Yeah.
Do you have bigger plans, or right now it's just like, let me finish school?
At that time, I'm just now, so something happened in the middle of all this drama. I got this amazing job. So first I got a job at a place called Nationwide, where I became a manager, and my life just started changing.
What was Nationwide about?
Nationwide Credit was a large group that dealt with credit, credit cards, distribution of credit to the American market. And I landed a good job there. So I actually brought a lot of Kenyans to work there. I actually worked there with my future wife, Amanda.
Is that where you met?
No. We met in school. We met in church.
Baptist.
And I'll tell you. No, in America.
Okay, so.
And we'll come to that. So I got very caught up in the business world, because things in my business world just started changing from there. Because I moved from there, got into another company called Aligis. And Aligis Group is where the owner became my mentor. And now I had a business mentor. And this guy just took me under his arm. We met in an elevator. He had 4,000 employees at that time in that place. It was ridiculous. So many people. You'd come to work. All we were doing was call center staff,
Are you telling me your elevator pitch worked?
My elevator pitch worked.
Okay, what did it? Let's talk about this.
Elevator.
Yeah.
And he says, good morning. And I say, good morning. And, little boy over there, he's like, what's your name? I tell him my name. And he says, I say, sir, can I tell you something? He says,